Hey everyone, welcome to Chainout Podcast, episode 9. I'm Jeremy. With me as always is your co-host Darryl.
How's it going, Jeremy?
Doing fantastic, Darryl. Thank you for asking.
Good. Yeah, good to be here. Another episode. Been a while since we recorded, so
Couple weeks now,
raring
hey?
to go. Yeah, raring to go again. Yeah, get back in the seat, see how things go.
You're looking good today. I see you're sporting some new gear.
Hey, yeah, finally got the look at that. We're repping the EDGA there. Yeah, I got my shirt. I also got a hoodie as well, but didn't want to wear two at the same time. And you're wearing your hoodie, so you wore your hoodie on the last episode. So yeah, got a nice T-shirt for the summer. Got a hoodie for the winter and the fall time.
Yeah, shows our support for the local group and doesn't get more local than wearing your home club's gear, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I noticed that you had it on at the putting league the other night there, so good to see the merch is out there.
That's right. I might have to buy an extra one just so I can trade one off to clean once in a while.
Exactly. Yeah.
So-
Don't say that because I'll end up spending more money.
Exactly.
But it's a good cause there, supporting local, so good.
So what have you been up to in the last 2 weeks? You've been keeping yourself busy doing anything?
Yeah, watching a lot of YouTube videos, watching a lot of golf. It's been getting a little bit colder over here now, so winter is finally upon us. Not getting out as much as I want to get out, but I've been watching a lot of videos. I actually have been watching a really good video, and things are kind of making sense. They're kind of falling into place. Every little, what I thought I knew in the beginning, I'm kind of revisiting some things, and it's falling into place. So I recently signed up for the Power Disc Golf Academy. With Paul Ulibarri, Ezra, and Holly Hanley.
Holland Hanley? Yeah.
Holland Hanley, yeah. Always get her name mixed up. And a video from Ezra really kind of made, because I've been trying to, buy discs, throw them. Is that the one I need? Is that the one I need? What am I looking for? I never really had a plan of what I was trying to build my bag, but he broke it down really easily, and it's something that I never really thought about. But he started with the putters, and he said, if you have an understable, a stable, and an overstable putter, that's 3 discs. Like,
Right.
I only really putt with Bergs. I mean, I think I sometimes have a Watt, sometimes take it out for a proxy. I do have an A5 and an uplink in there, but they're kind of more mid-rangey. I mean, I do use them for approach shots, but basic putters, I don't really have a throwing putter. But pick those 3 putters, then go to your mid-ranges, have an understable, a stable, and an overstable mid-range. Same with fairway, same with your distance drivers. And if you do that, then you've got a good selection of 12 discs to start the basis of your bag. And
Right.
I've downloaded the apps like most people. I know you've got it as well. And where you can plot the discs that you've got in your bag, and it will show you in a graph what type of disc goes where. And you can really look at it. And what I noticed was that I have... And this was my mindset, is I always wanted all of my discs to be stable, neutral, because I wanted it to go where I was trying to throw it.
Right. Where we're
Not
always
realizing-
trying to throw, not where it actually
Yeah.
goes.
No, exactly. It'll go in a straight line. It's just not where I was aiming. It goes normally like 100 meters to the right. But yeah, actually understanding that, in wind, you need overstable discs. Maybe you don't want high glide in the wind, you want low glide. There's always that, if you don't have a forehand, you can always use those understable discs. Sometimes you want that, having a time lapse, for example, on your forehand, a disc that's guaranteed to go left or right, depending on how you're throwing it. And building the bag from there with a kind of a purpose, rather than just, buying from one manufacturer, or buying it because one disc goes straight, so you want them all to go straight, thinking, if I could throw it straight, I'm good to go. But yeah, so I've been kind of revisiting building my bag and finding some holes that like I said, I think I have like 7 or 8 discs that are all in the same category. And which is good as well, because you need to find out which plastic, which mold, which manufacturer works for you, right? But yeah, revisiting my bag and trying to have it a little bit more organized.
I like that idea, Darryl, and
Yeah.
something I could revisit, because I know I do have a few discs I've picked up over time. One of them being the Toro is a super overstable disc, and you've seen me throw it a
Yeah.
few times. I never would have bought that one on my own, But now that I've learned how to throw it, it's definitely got a spot for certain throws in my bag. So I see the advantage of having that overstable disc, having that understable, and having that flat. It also probably makes you a lot quicker in your decision making when you're on the course, because you just have those options to choose from. Oh, I need a straight disc in a mid range. Well, I've got one. That's it, right?
Yeah.
I don't have 5 to choose from in my bag.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the other. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the other side for it, is the less discs you have, or the less choices you have of which shot to play, then you're going to get better at that disc, because you know that if you need a left to right turn, 150 feet, 100 feet, you know which disc you're going to grab. You're not thinking, like you say, which one of these 3 or 4 discs should I pick?
Yeah. And I would.
And we've seen it before. We've seen people out on the course that are, people go around with just the saddlebags or the hip bags, 3 or 4 or 5 discs in them. Really, when it comes down to it, if we all put our hand on our hearts and admit it, throughout the average round, you don't really throw that many different discs. You're always teeing off on most holes with the same disc, maybe a 1 or 2 different discs. Your upshot is always the same kind of approach disc, and you're always putting with the same putter, right? So, certain holes, maybe add another 3 or 4 discs in there. I think you could get away with 5 or 6 discs per round easily. And people do it, so obviously you can.
Yes, yeah. Just the one thing I would probably recommend is stay away from water holes if you're going to go about having only one disc per type of throw.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, got to stop saying that.
No, they absolutely, as you said, I think it's become a little game for our listeners. So between Jeremy's rights and Darryl's absolutelys, you can have some fun while you're listening to the podcast.
There you go. Let us know in the comments how drunk you get. What have you been up to? That's what I've been up to. What have you been up to?
Well, I had a few days left from last year of vacation that I took into 2024, and my family and I got down to Fernie. We were planning to do some snowbirding. I'd like to be snowbirding right now with the cold, but we were snowboarding and skiing. We have a mix in our family. We got to the mountain. It's a great mountain to be on. It probably has the best snow of any mountain right now in the Alberta, BC kind of area that's close to us, except nobody has great snow. So they have the best of an area that doesn't quite have it. So I got out there, snowboarded for one day, realized as I get older that snowboarding is a lot more scary than it used to be. My body remembers how to do it, Darryl, but my mind gets very fearful as I'm going down the mountain.
It's funny how those two things are linked, hey?
Yeah. So then what I did on day 2 was I went out to the Fernie disc golf course, because there was some hard packed snow, but nothing too bad. So I got to play Lizard Range, a nice 18-hole course right in town. I won't go too deep into it, aside from it's got a lot of really tall spruce trees that have no branches at the bottom. Like the branches are all high up in the air. And that was kind of neat, because it's like a lot of huge telephone poles everywhere on the course that you're throwing in and around. And I had a lot of fun. I shot above par, but not too badly above par. And that was good. And then on our way home, I stopped at Crow's Nest Pass. And in Crow's Nest Pass, which is right in the middle of the wind tunnel of Alberta, where all the wind turbines are, and it delivered on that. This was a 9-hole course that was up and down, and I think it was supposed to be 12 flights of stairs or 12 floors that you climb up and down. But when I looked at my UDisc rating, because of all my missed throws and such, I climbed 40 floors, is what it told me.
That's quite the addition.
Oh, it was, Darryl. And it was like a 9-hole course, and I was +7, I think. But I had a birdie and a few pars in there, so it was just a course that some of those holes exposed to the wind. I had one drive at the end of the round on hole 9. Anybody who's been out there will know it. I had the wind blowing in my face, threw it off the tee pad. It got floated up in the air like a kite, and it flew back at me. And it probably landed 1 foot in distance away from me and 20 feet down the hill. So I got 1 foot forward and I went 20 feet down the hill after going like 150 out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's, it's going to be a hard course, and you're going to have a hard round when that happens.
Yeah, but it was great. I would recommend anybody to go out there. It'll really teach you how to throw nose down. It didn't teach me, but it'll teach you, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, maybe one day I'll get out there and have a chance to play it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Did you get anywhere else on? Do you stop anywhere else on your way back?
No, we did travel up through Calgary on our way back, but I didn't get a chance
Okay.
really to stop there,
Oh,
um, just because timing was what it was. It's a 6 hour drive back, and if you stop anywhere, you're going to be
right.
driving into the night, and we didn't want to make more than one stop.
Yeah. You got all
But
the family with you. You don't want to have them sit in the car where you go have a round of disc golf.
that's right. Well, luckily, my family usually humors me and either takes some pictures or participates in disc golf, so I
Oh,
appreciate that
there you
from
go.
them.
Yeah, nice.
But I figured, Daryl, we've had
Hmm.
2 episodes over the last, I guess, well, 2 episodes this year where we've had some
Yeah.
pretty big guests, right? Kristen Swirls in our first episode of the year,
Yeah.
and then we had Tim Plamanin, president of EDGA, just last week. Um, and talking about Calgary, if I can, I don't know
Yeah.
a lot about the courses down there, but the guest we have this week
Yeah.
sure does know a lot about those courses. So I'm just going to do a little intro. I'm very excited, a little nervous, all of these things to our listeners so they know I actually wrote down
Yeah.
what I wanted to say. So here's what I've
Okay.
got.
Drum roll, please.
If you follow Canadian disc golf, I expect you've heard of our next guest. She is one of the best FPO players in Alberta. She has her own podcast. She has worked with Paige Pierce. She is a big disc golf presence on social media with over 14,000 followers on Instagram. If you haven't guessed it already, our guest today is the one, Joe Henderson.
Hello, Joe. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
We
We are doing
are
fantastic.
pumped, excited. We've just been doing a little intro banter here, and I tried to give you like a radio broadcast introduction before we brought you on. So
Amazing.
hopefully you'll like it when you hear it.
I'm excited to hear it. That's awesome.
Well, we wanted
How are
to.
you doing? You're
Doing
enjoying
well.
the cold snap of weather that we're all experiencing right now?
I wish I liked the cold. I don't know if there is anyone that likes the cold. Please tell me, because sometimes I wonder, why am I here? Why do I endure this? But yeah, it's good. We're getting through it. So yeah, how about you guys? Is it colder where you are in Edmonton?
I think with the wind chill, Joe, it's about the same.
Yeah.
You guys tend to get the Chinooks down there, and I was hoping you had better weather, but I saw that it was feeling like minus 40 no matter where you were in
Yeah.
Alberta.
I feel like after minus 40, it's just cold, and that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, we're supposed to play. We have Winter League going on up in Edmonton, and I'm supposed to play on Saturday. And I've been really, really quiet about whether I'm going to play or not because I don't know if I have any discs that I want to risk in that type of cold
Yeah.
weather.
I'm sure, like, if you hit a tree or something, I'm sure it would just snap, like, just break in half, like, at that point.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I've never done that before, but I've seen some videos. Even people are starting to post them on social media now.
Yeah, it's just wild.
Yeah.
I think that's happened to my
No-
husband once, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah, nobody's committing to saying whether they're going to go out yet or not.
You're going to see what it looks like day of, I'm sure, and then weigh
Yeah.
the costs, weigh the pros and cons.
Well, and I wanted to, Joe, I suggested that maybe we look at a field house at a rec center, one of those soccer field houses, take a couple practice baskets and maybe just throw putters back and forth because that would be
yeah.
a lot more fun than being outside this
Yeah.
weekend.
For sure, yeah. That definitely would be more fun.
So thank you for coming on. We do want to keep our podcast just a moving along with you. And one of the things is I think most of our guests or most of our listeners are going to know who you are, but there are going to be some out there who don't. So one of the things, and you're going to have to humor me here, this is to give you a little time to prepare your answer.
Okay.
But I've started something rather than just say, tell us about how you got into disc golf. I talk about superhero disc golfer origin stories.
Okay,
So-
I like it.
I've used a couple, and the one I've got set up for this week is like maybe your superhero disc golf story would be something like this. Maybe you got in an injury. It wasn't anything too serious, but you needed a blood transfusion. and that blood transfusion came from one of your super elite disc golfer relatives, and they couldn't control that power of theirs, but yet when you got that transfusion, it came out and settled perfectly, turning you into this super amazing disc golfer. Now, I know that may not be your story, but go ahead and tell us, how did you get into disc golf?
I mean, I feel like that sounds pretty accurate, actually, if the blood transfusion was around 10 years ago. So for me, my brothers actually started playing the sport, and my dad actually, way before I did. They started back in like 2009, I believe, and I think I touched my first disc in like around 2010, like summer of 2010. And yeah, it was really fun. I enjoyed it. I played like 9 holes, and then my arm got tired and I got cranky because I wasn't throwing 400 feet and I wasn't getting all my putts in, and you know how it goes. Like, I got pretty good at my sidearm. I had 1 disc and it was a Sidewinder, and loved that thing. And yeah, it was really, really good. I would play 9 holes here and there in the summer with my brothers or my family. And then, yeah, I kind of realized, yeah, I'm only getting more and more frustrated because I'm not good right now. So the more that I actually chose disc golf as kind of my own personal thing, that's when I started liking it. And it wasn't until I got a new car in 2019, 2020, around then. And that's when I started being like, you know what? It's like, there's not much else to do. I just moved out onto my own. I used to live with roommates. And I was like, I'm going to try disc golf by myself. So I just kind of like ventured out, did my own little thing here or there. But I went, actually, the course that I fell in love with disc golf at was Rundle Park. So
hey, we know that course.
Yeah, so shout out to Rundle Park. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that about growing up with your brothers and then playing disc golf, because we spoke to Kristen Swirls a couple episodes ago, and she brought up that topic exactly, that women disc golfers going out and learning with male disc golfers sometimes feel frustrated because they're not, you're not throwing the same shots, and you're not in the same, the area on the field sort of thing. Is that what you felt as well, that just that frustration?
Oh yeah. No, for me, I'm quite competitive. So if I can't get to the level that they're at something, then for me, it's like, it's not as fun. Like, I want to be good at something, right? I want to be mastered at it. But I actually just started doing some self-reflection of like the whole point is just starting. Like, you just have to start something, and the moment you start it, like, it gets better and better and better as you go. Like, I've been doing these recaps on Instagram of like where I was before, like when I first started versus now, and it's like, if I had just chose to stop, like where would it be, right? Like, each time I go to the field, each time I go to the course, each time I putt, it gets better. And like, you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, but you just have to go out and start.
So it was Rundle Park then that brought you back into it, and that was where you really started to get to the path that you're on now into your disc golf career. Is that where you would say? Okay.
Yeah, Rundle Park started it all, and my now husband, then boyfriend, he was actually more addicted to it than I was at a time, because it got to be COVID, and yeah, he would be like, oh, what do you want to do? Like, let's go play disc golf. And I'd be like, are you serious? You want to go play disc golf again? Like, we were just out like 2 hours ago. And I was like, what are you doing? And so he was more addicted than I was. And at the time, he actually had quite a big social media following on Instagram, just for photography and like other creative stuff that he does online. And so he was like, you know what? You should just like try filming some of your videos. Maybe you'll get an ace. That'd be so cool. And so we were just filming just to see like my progress of like how I got better. But then also he was like, well, we could like post them, and like, I don't know, maybe you can like find people to help you get better. And like, so I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. We could try that. And so then it just became a thing where we were like, well, yeah, you could just keep posting your videos, and then maybe you can like, I don't know, keep adding content to your page or whatever. I don't know. And then it became this like perfect meld. I've told this story a lot, but like this perfect meld of like creative Joe, which is a very big part of me.
Okay.
And then there's like the athletic side of Joe. I've always been athletic. I've always loved running. I've always loved biking. I've always loved like being outdoors. That's been like, I was a little tomboy as a kid. So like for me, these two little perfect puzzle pieces just kind of melded together. And I was like, wow, this is like a perfect job for me. So yeah, it just became a part of who I am.
Oh, and that's
Nice.
fantastic. Like to see that transition from going out with dad, going out with brothers, being a little frustrated, to having a partner who's into it as well. And so we should be thanking Cam for all the
Yes.
wonderful behind the camera work that's happening on all of your socials.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. He is so talented, and I 100% don't think any of this would be the way that it is. Like any of my love for disc golf, any of it would be without him. So yeah, him and my brothers and my dad. They kind of gave me that fire.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah.
I often wondered that because whenever I'm watching your videos, I always see that you're throwing the disc and Cam's behind the camera, getting all the good shots.
Yeah.
And I know whenever we kind of throw, or, you know, when I watch Chantel Badinsky, like you see her and Chris going back and forth, taking their shots. And I always wondered whether it was just you that get to play all these good courses, or whether Cam gets to, you know, we don't ever see his up shots and his drives and
True,
things
that's
like
a good
that.
point. We should probably get him on the channel for sure, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, he plays them lots, but the more that, he's just been working so much lately. So the less that he's playing every day, the less he's like, oh man, he's getting frustrated now because he's not consistent with it, right? So it's a give and take. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Joe, one thing too we wanted to do is was really important to us. We talked about it a bit with Kristen Swirls, and that's where your name had come up as well. Was we think it's important on our podcast to bring attention to junior disc golfers, to women's disc golfers, to everything, and we want to focus a lot on Alberta as well, and we want to focus on Canada because we feel that, you know, the Tour Lifes and the Grip Locks and those guys, they've got the professional level done. They've got the US market covered. We don't need to hash that out. We want to bring more attention to all of these important topics. So Kristen had mentioned that you were very integral and instrumental in getting the first women's league set up in Edmonton. Tell us about what drove you to take that on and how that all came about.
Yeah, well, it was 2020. I think 2020 or 20, yeah, I think it was the fall of 2020 was when I was like addicted, head over heels, in love with disc golf. Like I would go to the course probably once a day, maybe twice a day. Like I was there often, like all the time. And so I just was so enthusiastic about having more ladies to play with. I had only ever seen men at the course. So I was like, where are all the ladies at? What's going on? Like, come on, there's got to be more ladies here. And so for me, it was more of kind of finding that community with women and getting better alongside women. Because I think Kristen and I have actually talked about this, but it's easier to compare yourself against someone who is kind of the same level as you, right? Like, that's when I realized, oh, like, maybe disc golf is for me. Like, I was competing against other women, and I found out, like, oh, like, I can throw, like, a normal 300-foot shot. Like, this is okay. I'm okay at this sport. It's not that bad. And then, the more you play with other women, that's when you're like, whoa, like, check out what she can do. Like, look at that. Right. And so for me, I wanted that. And I saw that in like the pros, right? You can see their camaraderie and everything like that. And so I actually asked Tim Plamondon, and I was like, Tim, what's going on? Like, do we have a women's league coming up? And honestly, he was already on top of it. I felt like he was like, yeah, we do. Do you want to like come organize it and come every week? You could just be like the face of women's league. And I was like, sure, why not? And so it was, I remember so many meetings, like such exciting anticipation. We couldn't wait for this thing to start, but it was me, Vicky Young, and Tim Plamondon. So yeah, we would have these like little Zoom calls, and we'd be like, what else could we do? What else could we do? And it was just a matter of showing up each week and then getting the word out there. And I think I used my platform a little bit just to like, hey guys, like I didn't have very many people following me, but at that time, but it was a really good way to like get the word out and like just be like, hey, we're having women's league, come hang out at women's league. And I think our first day or our sign up or something. I still remember like getting a text from Tim, I think, or Vicky, and it was like, guys, we're at 60 women. And so
awesome.
it just like blew my mind that like you ask or like you create it and they come, right? Like that kind of mentality of like, is if you create a space for something, like look at that. And it was kind of a perfect storm with COVID as well, I think, because there wasn't a lot of other like baseball or like other activities happening. So I think a lot of women were just like, yeah, why not give disc golf a shot? So
Well, that's
awesome to hear that. Yeah, just the fact that, you know, everybody was in the same situation, you know, oh, I want to play with more women. Is there any women out there that play disc golf? And as soon as you put it out there, everybody comes together and you're like, wow, there's way more, you know, women that are interested in this than I thought. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely shocking, actually. Like, even I had played with Vicky and Kristen, I think, and Tim, I believe. I think we did like a little organizer meeting kind of like round, but I remember being like, whoa, like it's so cool playing with other women. This is awesome. Like, and then when Women's League actually happened, it just like filled my cup every week just so much just to see all the women that came out.
That's cool.
Well, also too, Joe, I've noticed that well, actually, no, sorry. I'm looking at my little list because I really want to be prepared.
No problem. You're good.
It's the look behind the scenes. But so you had done all that work down in Edmonton, and then you've moved on to Calgary, and that's where you are. Are you still taking that on, or is there other activities that are keeping you busy, or what are you doing to help build women's disc golf, if you are, in Calgary?
Yeah. So I think the first year that I was here, I kind of was on the cusp of Women's League when it was starting. I came in the summer, so I kind of took the year just to like, I moved in July and just kind of took the summer to play tournaments and just travel. I went home to BC for a little while, and I didn't feel like committing fully to a Women's League, especially after I had just started the one in Edmonton.
And knew how much work it takes.
Yeah, and I knew how much work it was, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take a little breather. And that's kind of when other duties for disc golf kind of like ramped up. So for me, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take a back seat and just go play casually, enjoy it. And that's kind of how that summer went. And then the next 2 summers, I started playing a little bit more in Women's League. And last year, I played quite a bit in Women's League. And I'm thinking, this is not like for sure, but I'm thinking about potentially starting a more competitive league here in Calgary and talking to the Women's League there about that. So I kind of talked with someone last year about someone who about running 2 separate leagues, kind of where one's a little bit more competitive, but on the same night as the other one.
Right. And I think,
same,
you know,
location. Yeah.
And I think that's what the Edmonton Women's League has developed into, in my understanding, is that everyone comes out together, and it doesn't matter whether it's your first night out or whether you're competing at the FPO level like Kristen is or yourself, is that everybody's there and they will have a competitive aspect for it, for the scoring and maybe awarding money if they're awarding money, whatever they're doing. But as for the actual cards and playing together, it's everybody playing together, everyone helping build each other up in the sport.
Yes, and I love that. I love the mixed divisions. I think that's amazing. And then that way you can learn from those who are competitive or who want to play competitively. You can learn the rules, you can learn all of that, but it doesn't have to be as, like, for me, I'm like going out to practice. So for me, I'm like, I want to make sure I'm doing everything, you know, in the proper way that you would run it or that you would in a tournament. So yeah.
Right.
And that's awesome that there's enough interest that you can have 2 separate leagues. You know, you can have the league for the people that just want to come out on a Wednesday, Thursday night, whenever it is, and just have, you know, that be their one night out, get out with other people and just have some fun. But then on the flip side, you also have that league separate where people want to take it a bit more seriously and, you know, and show that competitive edge. So that's great that there's enough interest in that. Yeah.
Definitely. I saw it last year for sure. We play at Curry Reservoir in Calgary, which has a lot of OB. So it's such a fun course for me because it's basically like I have to just challenge the OB and challenge the course the entire time, which is normal disc golf you do. But this course is like on steroids with OB, how much there is. So, but yeah, so it was fun seeing the ladies at the very beginning, and you can see them being like, whoa, I didn't make it to that in Bounds area last time, but now I can. Like, you could see them slowly get competitive over the year, which was very, very fun for me to see too.
That's fantastic.
Well, we spoke about it a few episodes ago, I think, but to shout out another Canadian disc golfer. I'm sure you've probably seen it if you follow him, but Thomas Gilbert recently did a good video about managing your OB, because obviously we know that he's a big arm thrower on the tour and things like that, but he struggles with being able to control his drives, and he goes OB a lot. And he had Chris Clemens and Gannon Burr, and they were talking about how to manage that OB. So yeah, anybody that's participating in the Women's League in Calgary, go and watch that video.
Yes, go. I actually did watch that video, and it helped immensely. I was like, okay,
I think everyone can take something from that.
Yeah, it's like just throw overstable at the OB and then just have it drop in.
Yeah.
But you're like, what? Throw at the OB? Why would I do that?
Yeah.
That's what we always say, right? If there's a tree you want to avoid, just aim at it, because you won't hit it. You try and miss it, you're guaranteed to hit it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Joe, as well too, as you're playing FPO events and kind of taking on some of the tournaments, we looked at some of the events you played, and we can see that you played the women's tournament, the Crush, that I think has moved a couple times, maybe from different locations.
Yes, I think it was in the Kootenays at the beginning, and then moved to Kamloops, and then I think this year it's potentially at Raptors Knoll.
Oh, wow. That would be, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I saw that one, and then the Calgary's Women Can Park It as well that you played in?
Yeah, I played that one as well, yeah.
And then how have you found, now that you've been playing for a number of years and been in tournaments for the last few, have you found that the women's tournaments are getting bigger and growing? Are you seeing that heartwarming aspect of it starting to get busier?
For sure, yeah. I think this year actually at TCO, so Tournament Capital Open in Kamloops, that was when I was like, whoa, women's disc golf is getting big in Canada, because I went to that tournament and I think we had around 17 FPO in that tournament, maybe 16, maybe 17. But yeah, wow. I was like, wow, this is the biggest field I've ever competed in. It just pumped me up. I loved it so much. And yeah, that was one where I was like, okay, this is getting big. And then we had our Women Can Park It here in Calgary. And that was such a fun event. Brenda and Jody did such a good job on that tournament. It was unreal. They had like perfect little trophies for every single division. It was wonderful. And then at the very end of that tournament, they actually had a ring of fire, like the putting ring of fire.
Yes.
But instead, you got a prize at the end if you made it ever. So like they would have it from, I think the edge of circle 1 is where we started. And then you take a step in. If you didn't make it, grab your putter, and then putt again. And then if you made the next one, you still get a prize. And then if you made the next one, you still get a prize. So every single person walked away with something at that tournament. And there was probably about 50 people there. It was unreal.
That's great.
Yeah. So everybody's a winner.
I have a quick sidebar, Jeremy, because we're famous for sidebars on this. But just to reflect back to another, I keep going back to Kristen's episode, because so many things that you touch on is things that she mentioned as well. You mentioned about the field getting larger and things like that. And she'd mentioned that a lot of tournaments in the beginning that she participated in, obviously they're different from the MPO because their depth of field is so long or deep. But it got to the point where every round you were with your same card mates because the field wasn't as deep. How did you find that with a deeper field? Was there more fluctuation in who you were with round by round? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, no, there definitely was a little bit more fluctuation. I think I was on the lead card the first 2 days, and then the third day I was on chase card. So it was like I was still with somewhat of the same people, but it was cool though, because I was like, oh, I got to play with like over half the field. Like I think I got to play with close to 12 people, which is crazy. Like normally I'm used to playing with 4, which is wild. Yeah. So and normally, like Kristen said, like normally I'm playing with the same 4 people, and you just go out and you play, and it's wonderful. We all love each other, and it's great. But like it's just so interesting that like, oh, I could play with another person. Yeah. Like there could be 2 cards of FPO. So it was just really cool to experience that for sure.
That's good. Nice. And with these with the FPO tournaments now that they're starting to grow, what is there anything else that you're seeing that gives them a difference or something that is more supportive to the women's game than what you would see at just a general open tournament for everyone? Are you seeing any things that are being more focused on through the FPO tournament?
I would say the biggest thing is having early registration for women. I think that's been a huge push, and it's definitely helped me. I'm not as organized as I probably should be. I am more so I actually work for Paige Pierce. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm more organized for her than I am for myself. So whenever I sign up for tournaments, it's like, oh yeah, I play tournaments too. Like I should sign up for that. But yeah, so that's been a huge help to me, and I know a lot of other women's, just to create a space and like a time limit and having like a capacity for women, like having already, you have like those spots already filled, kind of like already taken up so that women can enter. And I think just having an inviting and like a really inviting place, and like I said before, like having a women's run event is really awesome too, because I think that a lot of women are just like nervous about how a tournament goes. Like I've kind of like helped a couple people here in Calgary with their first tournament, like jitters a little bit, where they're like, what do I eat the night before? I don't know what to do. Like, tell me, how early should I get there? And like, so that's been really cool too, is like being able to see, I don't know, how comfortable people are, and like you can see them making their own little friends too, but like also coming to me and some of our more experienced FPO here in Calgary.
That's great. Now, you brought up Paige Pierce, so I think that's going to move us to a little bit of disc golf profession side of the things. And, you know, people will say, find a job that you love and you never have to work another day in your life. I've heard that a number of times, and I've always been trying to do that. And maybe Darryl and I doing a little bit of a podcast is our way to start heading down that way. But the one thing that you've done is you've managed, I believe, to make disc golf your main career, whether it's the Approachable podcast that you have with Paige, whether it's the work that you do with her, the work you do with Jomez, your social media content. Like, how did you manage to do it? Because just like Darryl and I, and I'm sure many of our listeners who would rather not be in front of a computer typing all day, how do we go down that path? How did you make it happen?
Yeah,
just pinch yourself first, Joe.
Right, exactly. Oh, honestly, seriously, I have to do that every day. So, but first, a little disclaimer: I do teach preschool, so that is my number one primary job right now. Okay. But in the summer, disc golf for sure is my career. That is my job. And I do all the other things that you're talking about on the side as well, which keeps me going, honestly, throughout the week, because I'm just so addicted to disc golf and in love with this sport that I couldn't imagine doing anything else. But I started doing that I started posting all of that content when I was trying to get better. That's kind of how it began. But it was like post, and then I kind of was like, you know what? I think there needs to be more women in this sport. Like, again, I was like, this is crazy. Like, how is it that all the men are on Jomez? Like, you have Germ, you have Yuli. Like, what's up with that? Like, there needs to be some ladies on Jomez. So I actually just emailed them one day, and I was like, hi, Jomez Pro. I think that women should be, like, more represented on your channel and this and that. And I basically said, I'm doing this thing already. At the time, I was doing something called Throwback Thursday. So I would ask people to send me their videos or tag me in their videos of them throwing from the past. Because I had all these videos that I was like, what am I going to do with all this? Like, I have all these videos of me throwing, trying to get an ace or learning a backhand or throwing a sweet forehand or sidearm or whatever. And I was like, what am I going to do with all these videos? I'm sure other people have videos of themselves throwing disc golf discs. Like, I'm sure. So I just started doing Throwback Thursday, and then I told Jomez, I was like, you know what? I have an idea for you. Because we have the same name, and I was like, you know, we have the same name. You can adopt this if you want, and we can call it Joeback Thursday instead of Throwback Thursday. So then they jumped on board, and it was a really cool partnership for a really long time. And yeah, they were super responsive. They emailed back right away. I had meetings with them about, honestly, the podcast was the first thing they were like, we want a women's podcast. We want a women's podcast. And I was like, whoa, hold up. I don't know if we're ready for that. I don't have a mic. I don't know how to do a podcast. I'm not ready for that. So I was like, you know what? Why don't we just start with either highlighting women's leagues is what I wanted to do also, because I was starting that league in Edmonton at the time. So I said either highlighting women's leagues, or we could just do Joe Back Thursday where everyone is welcome. And then we don't have to put a gender on it, and everyone is welcome, right? And so they were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Let's do that. Why not? So we decided to partner up. I think it was April 1st, which was so funny because it's April Fool's Day. And I was like, oh no, our announcements on April Fool's Day. No one's going to believe that I'm working with Joe Mez Pro. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But yeah, so that's how that happened. And then did you want me to go into how I started working with Paige as well, or?
If you're comfortable
okay.
talking about that too,
Yeah.
we'd love to hear it. I think a lot of
Definitely.
people see one
I have a few
aspect of what you
sidebars
do.
I have a few sidebars that we need to circle back to. But
Okay,
go ahead.
okay.
If you're in the flow, go ahead, Joe.
Sounds great. Okay. And then with Paige, I actually got a DM from her back in summer of 2021. And all it said was, "Do you have a job?" ? And I was like, At the time, I was moving from from Edmonton to Calgary, and I was switching school boards. At the time, technically, I did not have a job. So I was like, no, what do you need? And this was the first time I had ever heard or talked to Paige at all. I have never really spoke to her at all. And then actually my mom and dad and my brothers have met her before I did. So that was funny. In Thailand, they played with her, or like they saw her play and they played as well. But yeah, she just asked me if I would like to work for her. If she needed an assistant and then a tour manager. So she was like, hey, do you want to fill this position? And I kind of just dropped everything. And I was like, yes, please tell me what I can do to help make your life easier. Whatever you need, I can do it. And so I just kind of, yeah.
I was going to say, sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say organizing or teaching preschool, and then you've got all these little kids all around. Is that pretty easy transition to then running a tour for a professional disc golfer? Or?
I mean, not quite. No, it's not quite the same thing, which is actually probably to my benefit, because if I had to go do preschool with a bunch of 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds and then come home and do another 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds, I think I'd be like so tired. It's too tired.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely a different skill set, and I adore it. It's amazing. It's really cool trying to fill gaps. Like I have to try and figure out like her accommodation for certain events and like try to create like the cheapest option or the most affordable option or the easiest for her to like get around if it's like airfare or something along those lines. Yeah, so that's been really, really fun, and signing her up for tournaments and all that kind of good stuff.
Great.
That's
and
awesome.
do you ever get a chance to... Oh, sorry, you have some sidebars, Darryl. I'll ask one, and then it's back to Darryl. But I would say, do you get a chance to travel with Paige in any of the time over the summer at all? And how is that?
Yeah, I do get to travel with her. I usually just fly out to events and meet her at events, and then I'll just stay at the Airbnb with her. But it's been awesome. Like, I think 2022 probably was the biggest year that I did the travel. I think I went to 6 events, and it was so fun. I actually went to OTB and caddied for her, and she won that one. So that was pretty cool to see that happen and unravel. And yeah, just really fun to kind of be there on the ground. And for me, it, I think, helped me to learn, like, I have 30 seconds, and you can check the wind multiple times, and like just ways that you can, I don't know, just channel that professional level of disc golf and understand and know what it takes, right? And like how much pressure these putts or these throws are actually happening, right?
Right.
It's crazy.
And that's the thing, right? We're watching the coverage and we see this person throw, then it cuts to that person throw. We don't see what's going on while they're waiting and things like that. So being able to learn from her while she's waiting, what she's doing. I'm sure she's just not watching them, like
Yeah.
we do. When we're playing a practice round, we're watching the other person throw, but she's probably, like you said, looking at the wind, looking more focused on her game and what it takes to play her game than what everybody else is doing. So that's
Exactly.
a good insight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to throw it back to a couple of the questions or points that you made there, and it was just funny that they kind of all these round pegs fit into round holes when you said it, because my story is that I've been watching Jomez Pro and coverage in disc golf for about 7 or 8 years. I'm going 8 years now, Jeremy, because we've been doing it since 2023. But never knew that Edmonton or Canada even had any disc golf. I know Thomas Gilbert was on the tour and things like that, but never really decided to get into disc golf until one year. I just decided this year, actually, March of 2023. But I'm kind of frustrated, I'm going off on a tangent. I'll start with the first thing. I remember watching Jomez and their Instagram and things like that and seeing the Joe Back Thursdays. So not knowing where it came from, I just remember seeing it pop up and I'd be like, oh, her name's Joe and it's Joe Back Thursdays. That's funny. But now knowing where it came from and the fact that you reached out to them and said, this is what I want to do. And they were all on board with it. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
And then the second part that you mentioned about doing the podcast with Paige, the Approachable podcast. I remember when it came out, we would see the advertisements on Jomez Pro all the time, but for whatever reason at that time, I wasn't into podcasts. I wasn't listening to them. So I would see it, but I would just carry on with the coverage and then go and do something else. But since I've gotten into disc golf, I've started to listen to all the podcasts and everything I can consume. And it pains me to hear that in your first episode, when you were introducing yourself, Paige, the 5-time champion, you, the Am from Canada.
Yeah.
Your story was, well, I just started disc golfing in Edmonton, and it kind of sparked, and I was like, if I only listened to that podcast when it first came out, I could have gotten into disc golf way earlier.
So much sooner, for sure. Oh,
yeah.
man.
So. Yeah, I wish I watched it from the beginning when it first came out, but yeah, no, that's awesome that Paige actually reached out to you.
Yeah.
She saw something in you, or just
blows my mind every day.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Yeah.
Well, Joe, as well with the Approachable podcast, you guys did a good job in what we have heard. Like we try to consume as much podcast and everything Canadian we can, and we listened to the Thomas Gilbert one, and of course the ever amazing Carrie Neal episode as well. And I've noticed that you guys have stopped doing podcasts. Can we expect to have you resume them at any time?
I would hope so. At this time, I'm not positive. We got told that we were on a spending freeze from Jomez, so I'm not positive. And then if we don't have a podcast producer, Paige and I kind of are like, we don't really know how to do all the back end stuff. So whatever you're doing on your end, wow, amazing job, because that's not my forte and it's definitely not her forte as well. So yeah, I'm sure eventually things will get up and running again, but yeah, as of this time, probably not, which is really sad for me to say. So being on a podcast is quite fun for me. So thank you for having me.
You bet.
It all started from you sending an email to Jomez. So maybe if any of our listeners want that Approachable back, send Jomez an email saying we want Approachable back. We want to hear more from women's disc golfers. Mm-hmm. And maybe that'll be the push that they need to get it started again.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And to give you kudos.
If not, Jeremy and I will offer our services as well, whatever we can help.
There you go. Awesome.
But Joe, definitely listening to those episodes, you're so natural, the two of you, and it's something that we are trying to emulate in ours, in the fact of just trying to have a good flow and a nice repertoire. And if you guys can get back to it, that'd be great, because it's so good to listen. And we'll say to all of our listeners, you need to check out those episodes of Approachable. Check out Thomas Gilbert, check out Carrie Neal, but check them all out because they're all great. So
thank you. Yeah, we hope to be back soon. I hope.
Yeah. Can we move along here just a little bit to your FPO side of things?
Yeah,
because
definitely.
What I'm looking at is your progression in following your social media. And as you said, you did some videos where how you were throwing before and how you're throwing now. And it's like this exponential curve of what your improvement has been over the last couple of years. So are we going to see a lot more of you play in some FPO tournaments? Are we going to see on maybe the Canadian Disc Golf Tour? Would you look at a DGPT event or?
That is a very good question. So for me, it's kind of all based upon how much Paige needs me at the moment. So if she needs me to be on tour, I'll probably say no to my own disc golf needs and I'll go on tour with her. And for me, that does fill my cup just the same way. It's just a little different, but I still get to like participate and be a part of disc golf. And that for me is really fun. So it kind of depends on if she needs me. But if she doesn't, I'm hoping to sign up to all of like the A tiers in Canada for sure. So hoping to.
Well, that's great because we've been starting to make our list, right, Darryl? And I think we've had a few of the A tiers on there, so maybe we'll be able to cross paths that way when you're there.
I hope so. Yeah. And I'm also going to Memorial Disc Golf Championship in the end of February as well, so that will be my first big U.S. tournament. So yeah, I'm excited about that one too.
Oh, well, we've heard great stories, right, Darryl?
Yeah. Memorial seems to creep up on this podcast all the time. Yeah, we had a definite two good stories from Kristen and Tim about their rubbing shoulders with the pros down there. So yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it's a good time, and I'm really excited. I think I don't know which card I'll be on yet, but I'm leaning towards Fountain Hills is probably going to be my favorite course because I think the water is a little bit less intimidating on that course than it is on Vista. So I'm like, okay, which discs do I bring? Which discs do I leave behind? Because I do not want to lose them. So, yeah, I'm excited about it.
Awesome. So one of the other things, you brought it up earlier, is that you played in TCO and another podcast in Canada here, Parked Pro Northern Flights. They did a great job. I actually, on one of the other podcasts I mentioned, so I'll keep it short, but my first tournament was last year was Tundra Toss in Edmonton, was the winter one.
Nice.
And then I heard Terry Hong and some other people talking about this tournament in Kamloops. So they said, oh, okay, well, let me take a look at that. I have a friend out there. And my second tournament ever was TCO.
No way. That's amazing.
Which was an amazing experience in that. But we've since had a chance to watch the coverage that Parked Pro put out there. And one of the things that was amazing that I don't know, not many people get an ace. But you got an ace in the tournament.
Yeah, it was nuts. I lost it.
Did you?
You did, yeah.
You
went crazy.
I don't think I've ever had that type of out-of-body reaction before in my whole life. Because I think mostly why I thought it was so crazy is because it's an island hole, the hole that I aced. Mm-hmm. So I think it's around like less than 200 feet, probably just shy of 200 feet. And I thought for sure I was going to hit the barricade and BOB. And I thought, darn, like it's a bogey, like for sure. So I was like, great, now I've lost another stroke. As it's flying in the air, I hear Brianna Ainsley shout, "Get in the chains!" And it's just... it's heading straight towards them, and I'm just like mouth open, like what is happening? And it's just flying, hyzering straight into the chains. I hear the chains, and I just lost my mind because I was like, I got those strokes back. Oh my gosh, like I can't believe it. So I just, it was, and then I didn't even realize till the very, very end that Cam actually got it all on video, which I was like, what are the chances of that? Like this whole time I've been posting disc golf content. I've been trying to get an ace on camera, and it happens at a tournament. So
at a tournament,
So that footage that we see in the Park Pro, that's Cam filming that?
Yeah, that's Cam's, Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he pulls through again.
That's awesome. Thank you, Cam.
Yeah.
So, Joe, now did you do the whole... This is what I envision if I ever get an ace in a tournament. I'm going to throw my bag down. I'm going to run right down, grab that disc, thank the crowd.
Totally
did you do the whole thing?
Yeah, I was like, guys, can I get it? Can I go get it? And they were like, yeah, go get it, run. And I felt like I was running so fast. I was just booking it. And wind was in my hair. My hat was flying off. I threw my hat in the air. It was just a big old ordeal. But... yeah, I don't think I've ever, I'm not I'm social. I'm not really an extrovert, but I'm not like that. Like, I'm not like a loud person, right? So for me to do that, I was like, who was that? Like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
That's
wild.
great.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Now, Joe, is
Well,
that
Joe?
disc? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is that disc now on the wall in your house, or is it still in the bag being thrown?
It was in the bag before winter, but right now it's on a disc golf shelf that I have. But I do want to put it back in the bag. I got another ace with it this
Really?
year, so I'm like, this is my only disc that
Wow.
I've aced with it 3 times. I only have 3 aces, so I'm like, do I
Wow.
just keep it in the bag? Because am I ever gonna get another ace if I don't have that disc in the bag? So that's how I feel.
Well, which disc was it?
It was a Discraft Zone, but it was actually a pretty special one that we got in North Carolina at the Disc Golf Pro Tour shop. So it says DGPT and then 2021 on it. So I'm like, I kind of want it back in the bag, but we'll see.
Well, Joe, you know what you can do with that disc when you're ready to retire it? I believe it was Yuli who said you keep that disc in there and that becomes the bag captain. So that
There
disc
you
doesn't
go.
throw, but it keeps all the other discs in line and tells them what they're
That's more
supposed to
like
do.
it. Yeah, that's more like it. I like it. That's great.
No, I was just gonna move it along a little bit here. I know we're getting up in time here, and we wanted to get you out of here. We don't want to keep you too long. Part of the thing that we do at the end of every podcast, it's become a bit of a staple here now. We go through this section that we like to call Desert Island Discs. It started off with being shipwrecked on an island, and it was an 18-hole golf course there. Which 3 discs are you taking with you, Joe? If you had to have a choice, originally it started out as a distance driver, a mid, and a putter.
But
we've
Tim
had people
changed all
pick-
that.
Yeah, Tim, as you maybe
Firebird,
you do or you don't
Firebird,
know.
You got it.
Very
pretty
close.
much.
It was Fire. You went Firebird, Firefly.
Oh, I knew it's got to be a Firefly for
Yeah,
sure. Okay.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, which 3 discs are, you mentioned about your zone there that's got a special place in your bag, whether you're going to take that on the island with you, but yeah, which 3 discs are you picking?
Definitely a zone. A zone is always a must. I definitely love my zones. I'd probably putt with the zone too. I don't normally, but I could putt with it. So we'll say the zone for like the putter approach, and then I would say, I mean, Sidewinder is just like so nostalgic to me, but I don't know if nostalgia would really help me on an 18-hole course in shipwrecked mode.
Yeah.
But I would say the Felon was one of the discs that kind of got me into the sport a little bit more. So maybe the Felon, which Tim is going to scold me for because he's always been telling me to get a Firebird. But, sorry, Tim.
It's
and
your
then, yeah, exactly. And then I would probably say maybe an Undertaker. I really love the Undertaker, and for me, it's that like neutral to stable flying disc, and I feel like you could put it on kind of any angle, and it can use the angle, but then also come back. Yeah, exactly. There it is, Paige Pierce Undertaker.
There you
Yeah.
go. Everything ties in together, right?
There you go. Yeah. But it's like one of those discs where it's like you could put it on any angle, but it still always will come back to that left. Like it'll still come back left if you're right hand backhand throwing. But yeah, so I love it.
Yeah, nice. One thing that interests me is that every time I give these questions to people, I say, which 3 discs do you need to take with you? People think way too much about this disc golf course. They think, oh, I need a disc that carries water. I need an understable. There is no course. It's just whichever 3 discs you like. But I like how
all of my discs are stable.
I like how much effort and thought people put into which disc they want on this imaginary course. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I should have added an understable disc. But I mean, I live in Calgary. It's going to be windy on that island, right? So
exactly. Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, that's great. We appreciate that you've given us as much time as you have, but we want to make sure, and we do this for our guests, we want to make sure if you've got anything you want to shout out or anything that you want to talk about, we want to give you a moment to do that.
For sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you want to head over to YouTube and follow me on YouTube, that would be amazing. It's just Joe Henderson Disc Golf, and I am hoping to make a ton more content this year, and that's kind of my priority for 2024. And Instagram, I'm Joe Henderson Disc Golf, and anywhere Joe Henderson Disc Golf probably is the tag. But most and foremost, I am sponsored by Grip Equipment for 2024. So I would love for you, if you wanted to get a bag or anything along those lines, or have questions even about a bag, just hit me up, ask me some questions. And if you are planning on buying one from Grip, use my code JoeGift10. But yeah.
JoeGift10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, thanks.
Awesome.
Joe and Darryl, you got anything to wrap us up before we let Joe go? Oh, I'm going to keep it short, Joe, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say one other thing to congratulate you with, is that 2021, 803 rated, 2023, 904 rated. Your progression is amazing, and it's what we are striving for. I don't know how you did it, but
thank you.
I want you to bottle that up, put it in a package, and send it to me.
I know I will. Okay, I'll think of all the things that happened, and I think the number one thing was putting. Nobody likes to hear that, but
no,
putting got a lot easier in 2023. Yeah.
Good stuff.
That's awesome. Work on our putting, Jeremy. That's what we got to do.
Okay, so Joe, we hope to see you out at the tournaments, and if we're down in Calgary, we've seen your videos. We are going to probably get some recommendations from you off air to tell us where to play, because we want to hit some of those great courses down there.
And I'll come play with you. It would be awesome. We can hang out, have a little round together. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Well, thanks a lot, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Take care, guys.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
See ya. Darryl, I don't even know what to say, man.
Hey, things just keep getting better and better for us.
Oh, I really am. I'm speechless at this moment. You're gonna have to give me a chance. Hang on. I kept it down there, but I'm gonna need to.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much, Joe. It was wonderful having her on the podcast. We're so blessed, Darryl. Like, we're having guest after guest after guest, and we've said this before, is that every guest we're gonna have on, we're gonna have a great conversation, and that didn't change today. And we've got somebody who is with Joe Mez Pro, who is huge in women's disc golf, who is working with Paige Pierce, who's creating podcasts. Like, how did we do that?
And not just working with Paige Pierce. Let's give props where props is due. She's an FPO. She's a professional disc golfer.
Yeah, well,
somebody that we know, or we've just spoken to, is an assistant, a tour manager of an FPO player. Like, that's insane. I mean, where do we go from here, Jeremy?
I don't know, but we'll find out next week.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I don't think we should get carried away. I don't think we're going to be. I mean, I'm excited and pumped up by Joe's comments about all it takes is just send an email to somebody, and you get. If you don't, I've always been told if you don't ask, you don't get. Which is a good way to live by, right? People always say, "Oh, well, good things never happen to me." Well, did you do anything about it? Well, no, there's no point because nothing's. Well, if you don't try, you're never going to succeed, and I firmly believe that. So, I mean, it's just hearing that good. Excuse me. Shouldn't have waited till the end for that beer, but you hear all these good, feel-good stories about when things happen, and just I'm so glad for Joe that all it took, that we spoke to Tim about when he went soccer golf.
Oh, soccer golf.
No,
yes.
When he went to soccer golf, it wasn't on that day. So he took that fork in the road and he went down to Rundle and he picked up the frisbees, and then that was it. That was all that is written. The rest is written in history. Like if ball golf was open that day or soccer golf, who knows where he would be right now? And the same for Joe. If she didn't send that email, if she didn't think, oh, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? I'll just send that email, and look where she is now.
Exactly. And I was surprised that you were able to hold your tongue as long as you did, because as soon as she said she didn't have a producer to do all that background thing for the podcast, I was waiting for you to go, what do you think I do the whole time?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I kind of I didn't live up to my own analogy there, did I? I should have maybe, if you don't ask, you don't get, but I didn't ask. So I kind of slipped it in at the end there. It was kind of a backhanded kind of, but I mean, the way that, the Approachable podcast is run and things like that, I think it's a little bit more, in depth into what we do. But maybe it's not. I mean, like I said, it's
We'll
out
get there.
Yeah.
And I
Joe, if you're watching this episode back and you're still watching at this point, you didn't just hit stop when you got off the when you ended when you ended. Yeah, it's there anyway. I'm not going to say it.
Well, Darryl, as well, and I had to bring that up at the end because when we were talking before about resolutions and such, and I was joking about what I did last year where I was just like, yeah, 800, 850, 900, those are going to be my goals. And I couldn't, I was well below 800. The progression that she's made, and kudos to her, because I know just from watching her social media and how much she throws and how much she practices and how much she works and puts in that time and probably does the things beyond just going to the course and playing around like a lot of people do. She probably is in the field doing field work. She's working on form and doing those things. But to me, to see 100-point rating change to 900 in 2 years, like, that's impressive.
And what makes it even more impressive is, like, I knew that she had a background in teaching. I didn't know that was her full-time job. I just thought maybe she was a temp teacher or something like that. And the only reason I say that is because she does produce so much content on on Instagram. She's always going to, like I say, we see these videos. Maybe it's like us that she records 5 or 6 in a weekend and then saves them up, sort of thing. But she has so much content out there on YouTube, on Instagram. She's doing all these things as well as tour managing and assisting Paige Pierce in the summer. To hear that actually she has a job as a teacher as well, and just think, when do you get the time to do everything? It's one of those driven, focused females that goes after what they want and somehow manages to fit it all in. It's amazing, and then still improves as a disc golfer on her own.
Right. And I don't know about you, but I was trying to contain myself when she said, "Oh yeah, I think I'll put out more content this year." I'm like, how are you going to put out more content? You put out so much as it is.
I know, yeah. I mean, it amazes me how every guest we've had on, we get to the end of the episode and we're looking at our show notes and we're thinking, well, I didn't get to ask that. I didn't get to ask that. And you think, well, we'll have this guest back on as a repeat guest sort of thing. But with Joe, there were so many things that we wanted to touch on that we didn't get a chance to. And I know we were limited on time with her today, but she's definitely somebody that I would want to have back on again. And I'm sure we could interview her again and have a whole another episode of things that we didn't get to ask. I want to know who edits solar videos. Does Cam do that? I know Cam's a photographer and he's got a lot of, in that videography kind of world. But if she's editing them as well as she's starring in them and creating the content and keeping the website up to date, because she has a website as well, and the Instagram and the YouTube, like, just blows my mind. I'm still struggling trying to get the video out from the mystery box, so just shows that I'm not doing enough.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, we still have some time here. We like to keep going with the episode. So do you want to move on to some of the other things we've got? But thanks to Joe. And maybe let's say this, is that we'll put all of Joe's socials in the bottom of this, in the notes here, in the show notes for this episode. So make sure you go down there and check those out so that you can follow her on everything. Don't just go to one. Follow her on everything. Support Joe. Let's support Canadian disc golf. That's what we're all about. So let's continue to do that.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely have a Calgary trip planned. And if Joe's available, we'll line up with her. Maybe we can record some content then. That would be great. And we could really get a few pointers for our games, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Stop saying absolutely. Yes, for sure. Sorry, I got to take another sip.
You can do that. Well, if you want, do you want to, a couple things that we have that's in the stuff we like to cover is we want to cover Winter League, and it has been 2 weeks since we have recorded, not 2 weeks since our episodes have come out. But so just to catch people up a little bit on that, December 30th was a round at Hermitage. I got to play with one of the top scorers. Let me let the cat out of the bag. I wasn't that top scorer.
Well, you were the week before, or the
time before at Hermitage.
Yeah.
So, but that weekend, Dylan Froelich and Duncan Holness, they had the hot rounds with -7. So
Yeah.
not quite a -8, Darryl, but
Yeah, not bad for a couple of young punks, right?
yeah, but they were really hot rounds, and it
What I mean
was
by that,
great.
yeah, what I mean by that is just that you're old and that they're younger than you. So I'm not calling
Oh,
them punks.
yeah, yeah. Let's just throw that out there. Rub. Are you putting the salt right in the wound? What are you doing there?
Yes, well done to Dylan and Duncan for those -7 rounds. That's awesome. I dream of a -7 round.
Yeah, and I was dreaming when I did the -8. I still don't think I actually did it. I must have scored it wrong or something, right?
Yeah, judges ruling.
Yeah. Well, and I want to do a shout out from that week, and kind of we've started to do our little romper room shout outs and that kind of thing. But this one here, this week, will be for Jacob Neufeld. And the reason we're going to shout out Jacob Neufeld was he got the first ace of the Winter League season.
Yeah,
Guess
and
what
a
hole he
legitimate
did?
ace.
Oh, real legitimate. Guess what hole he got it on, or if you know, tell the
Yeah.
listeners.
Well, I know, yeah, and we've talked about this in our Hermitage review of which holes we think are aceable. And let me tell you, it wasn't hole 3.
No.
It was hole 11, which is no mean feat to score an 8. We've said it was aceable, and I guess this legitimizes the fact that we think that it's aceable, and Jacob went out there and proved that it is. So yeah, that's an awesome ace to get.
Yeah, and let me tell you a little funny story about the day. Was we had a card of 5, just the way things shook out, and we were on hole 12 is what we chose to start on. So 11 was the last hole. And I said to our group, I said, you know what? There's some great players on the card like there are every week. Are you guys okay if I film some of the drives on some of the holes so that if somebody hits band or hits cage, we get a video of it for you. You know, maybe we'll catch something good if I video it. I probably videoed 6-7 holes. We wrap up on hole 10 and someone says, oh yeah, we got a fist bump, it's the last hole, and good round, and that distracted me, and I didn't even pull my camera out to catch this ace.
Typical, right? We always say things happen when you don't have your camera out, so have it out all the time, and then just unfortunately, well, sorry, Jacob.
Yeah, but Jacob had this amazing sidearm flying high up in the air, so far away from the basket it looked like, but that's because it was catching the peak of its throw, and then it came hyzering down and smash right into the chains. And I think he was shocked because he was like, did that just happen?
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you may not have recorded it, but he had 4 other team card mates that witnessed it. So, did he get you to sign your disc or anything like that, or?
Well, we took some pictures. If he wants us to sign the disc, we can still do that after the fact. But we took some pictures to commemorate it for him.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So that was the highlight.
Perfect.
So again, congratulations, Jacob. Well, it was. I'm gonna say that was week 4. I want to say. Does that sound
that would
probably
be
right?
week 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
You started at Rundle.
Went to Hermitage, went to Rundle, back to Hermitage. And then our next round that was at Hermitage, on January 6th was at Rundle. And when we were out there, maybe it's just my luck to be on the hot cards because we've been flipping discs to determine cards, right? So it's not like we're picking who we're playing with. We're just flipping discs and however it shakes out. But Uncle Stephen Newman shot lights out. So get this, Darryl, what's your best score at Rundle?
+1.
+1, and I think mine is +1 or even. I've never been under par. I know that for sure. Yeah. So I didn't have the greatest day. I shot a +8, which I was, that was tough. But Steve Newman shot a -10.
It's 10.
Yes, double digits.
Double digits under par in Winter League.
In Winter League. And get this too, Darryl. After 9 holes, he was already at -7.
Oh. And which hole did he start on?
We started on 1. We started on the adjusted one that they've got out there, the winner layout.
Yeah. Wow, that's no mean feat.
Yeah,
it was -7 after 9 holes. Wow.
Yeah. So and then finishing -10, and I know he would tell you that there was a couple more birdies he could have picked up where his putt just hit cage or it was there, but it just wasn't quite high enough. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That's awesome.
congratulations to Steve on that. And definitely now
Yeah.
out of the whole winter league, that is the hot round. My -8 doesn't, it may stand at Hermitage, but -10 is the one that stands at Rundle.
Well, I mean, you're in a league format, so I guess you are competing against the rest of the league. So you're always trying to vie for your the highest position you can get on. But if nothing else, take away the fact that -8 at Hermitage is your own personal best. So
Yeah.
you've got to take that away from it, right? It's not that you are competing with all these other people with their hot rounds, but no one will take that -8 away from you, Jeremy.
No. Thanks, Darryl. Well, speaking of courses and
I have to make up because I
rounds,
called you old, so now I'm buttering you up.
you want to have a co-host next week, right?
Right. That's okay. I got the number for Joe now.
Yeah, there you go. Well, another one too, when we're talking about courses, is I realized when I was listening to our episode with Tim, it's because it's been a couple weeks here. We did mention that the very next day after that recording, we were going to head out and get you out to Norwester and hopefully change your mind and change your heart on the course. And I think we should maybe talk a little bit about that. And I think our listeners, a couple in particular that play out in the West End, I think Kevin is one of them for sure. They want to know, are you going to, change your course review structure and push Norwester up the ramp?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll start off by saying, I mean, I don't, on the grand scheme of things, Norwester's okay, but I mean, it's no Augusta. But we went out there to play the round. I've never played the full 18 layout that's actually on the U-disc. Like I've only ever played it, probably doubling up on some of the T-pads because some of them it's not quite. For me, it wasn't quite evident of which T-pad was the front 9 and which T-pad was the back 9, and the smart layouts and things like that. So yeah, the first time I've played it with other people that know the layout and which pads and mandos and things like that, because I'm thinking hole 1, there was a mando, but it used to be this mando, but now it's this mando, and this tree is going, and it was a bit not confusing, but unless you're with somebody that knows the layouts and the restrictions, it can be a little bit confusing. But yeah, we went out there, and I don't know if I alluded to it on the podcast, or I think I did mention it to Kristen on Kristen's podcast, was the reason for not liking Norwester was based on the setting. Whereas Rundle, Hermitage, Niska, Bailey's Crossing, all these other courses, not so much the hills, but they're set in rural areas. So you have that whole feeling of the park. Yeah, you have that whole feeling about the whole course. Whereas Norwester is plonked down in the middle of an industrial area. So that's why it doesn't feel like a disc golf course to me.
Well, could I say to that, when we talk to our guests, we do the desert island discs, we can say that, Norwester's in a park, but it's legitimately a concrete island around that park. So on the edges of holes, like it's you don't throw on line, you're throwing onto the road, right? Like it's that tight the way that park is.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mention about, you don't aim at the basket, you aim on the road. Because what happened on the back
I didn't think you were going to go there, were you?
I got to go there because it's part of the round that we had. So my 3 discs we mentioned, my 3 desert island discs were going to be the Berg, the Echo, and the Wave.
Right.
And I think the last 2 times that I played at Hermitage with Mark the time before, and then we played at Norwester for all of us. And whenever I've been throwing my Wave, and now whether this is to do with the cold, because I've heard on another podcast that in the cold, in the winter, your discs become more understable.
Right.
Just because of the air molecules and the cold, the dense air, and whatever else goes into the science behind it, but your discs become more unstable. Or whether I'm just getting better at throwing my discs and my Wave is a -2, I found the last 2 times that I've thrown it is that it is always understable for me. So
Right.
I forget which hole it was. Which hole was it? 9,
It would have
10,
been
11,
5.
12, 13. No, it was on the back 9, wasn't it? So it'd
Oh,
be
so
13.
5 plus 9, 14, right?
14. 14. I threw my disc and I was got a wide open fairway to aim for, but whether I threw it on some anhyzer and it was already understable, I threw it backhand and we just all watched it drift, and it drifted out of the fairway and happened to hit a parked car. We won't mention which car it was.
No.
There was somebody in the vehicle.
Which
was a truck.
probably scared the living crap out of him, is what I'm thinking, right? This thing
Oh,
hit
it
the
must have done.
yeah, hit the drive. Was it
Yeah.
like around the driver's side door?
Somewhere around there, yeah. So, we could all watch it. We were watching it floating, and I thought it was just going to go into the road, but then seen the vehicle, and then, we heard the hit. So, take your medicine. I picked up my bag. We walked over to the driver. He hadn't gotten out of his vehicle, so
Right.
thinking that maybe he was waiting for us to get over to him. But we went over to him. We approached him in a nice, calm, collected manner. First thing I said was, sorry, that was my disc that hit your vehicle. He didn't seem bothered by it. I said, I don't know if you want to get out and check for damage. I don't know where it exactly hit or how fast or, whether it glanced it or anything like that. And he said, no, it's fine. It happens. He wasn't too concerned about it. So, I said, well, I apologize and thank you very much. And
Well, it was the
collected my
best
disc.
case scenario that could have happened in a situation like that, Darryl, in my mind.
Yeah.
And what it does is it's kudos on you, and I was walking up there with you as well. Just the matter of, to all of our players out there, if you hit something, if something breaks, whatever the case is, these things happen. These are accidents.
Yeah.
And as you said, you just take your medicine and go take care of it, because we always want to make sure that disc golfers have a good name with everything in the city and what's going on. So if we've got a good name and we own up to what's happening, then that just shows that high class that we already know our players are, and just continues
Yeah.
it. So that was good on you. And it turned out good. It could have gone other ways, but this guy was like, nope, it's all good. Happens. I'm not worried about it. Have a good day.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, I threw the disc, it hit his vehicle. There's no way that I'm going to argue that it didn't, or what damage it did. There's no point arguing or anything like that. Just admit that a bad thing happened. But like you said, it was an accident. So, but like you said, it was the best outcome. He was very receptive to my apology. We picked up the disc and we carried on, and no more was said about it. So, yeah, that's, you throw on Rundle or Hermitage and you throw a wayward shot and it goes OB and you're stuck in the trees. You throw a wayward shot at Norwester and you're in the road. I mean, it was like, whether it was lucky or not. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a moving vehicle. There could have been a higher impact. It could have been a windshield. It could have been so many other different scenarios, but that's, that factors in. I mean, it's on me as a disc golfer. If I was a better disc golfer, I'd be able to keep my disc in the fairway and, wouldn't have to worry about it. But if I was a better disc golfer and I could keep it in the fairway, then I wouldn't be sitting here doing a podcast. I'd be out on the Canadian Pro Tour or the Canadian Disc Golf Tour or the Pro Tour. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just, most people that are playing that course are not professional golfers. So those are likely things that are going to happen and people need to be aware of.
Well, and Darryl, if money wasn't an object, what I would suggest for that course would be to take a look at, say, Victoria Park, the Victoria Park golf course and driving range. And when you drive up the hill towards downtown Edmonton from the river valley, they have the tall posts and all of that netting covering. So technically that would be, and again, it's a money thing. Like I'm sure that's very expensive to do, but that would probably help improve Norwester a lot. Especially, it doesn't have to surround that whole park because that's crazy, but there are a lot of areas when those throws are right along the edge of the curb and onto the road. That would probably do something to enhance the comfortability for everybody involved, players and non-players alike.
Yeah, exactly. So basically what we're saying is not my fault.
Well,
but
that's your opinion, Darryl, but you're wrong.
You can't use that line. That's my line, Jeremy.
Well, we hadn't heard it yet
No,
tonight. I didn't want to go an episode.
It doesn't work on me.
Everybody else, but not you.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
but we got through that. Oh, don't even go there. I know where you were going to go.
Keep going. Keep going.
So we played the rest of that round at Norwester and keep going with that.
Yeah, and we were joined by somebody else for the the last 4 or 5 holes. I think Briggsy was out on the course and joined up for us. So we ended up with the four of us just finishing off the back 9.
And props to Briggsy recently here too, right? Because if you haven't checked it out yet, we're doing a podcast here, and we thank you for listening to that. But Briggsy had a little feature on CTV News. So if you haven't checked that out, I think we've reposted it. If we haven't, we'll make sure we do that. We have?
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
no, I don't think we have actually. So we should. Yeah, we'll put the link.
We'll
in the
repost it
for sure, and we'll put it on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was good to have Briggsy join us because Briggsy also was listening to the podcast and understood your dislike for Norwester. So he wanted to show you the pro layout tees, and I think he showed us 3 or 4 of those as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, showing those pro tees. I don't even think they have a smart layout. I think it's just if you know, you know.
That's right.
Yeah,
I think Briggsy has a couple of those layouts. So if you ever find him on a course and want to see a different way to play, he'll have it for you. Yeah,
he was mentioning that he was doing that out at Jubilee.
Yes.
Creating a different way to play for to spice things up on the course. Playing across from different baskets, different fairways, and things like that. So, yeah. But we finished it. We did the 18. I said I would go back out there. I went back out there. I'm a man of my word.
Now, I don't know if you've got the drum roll sound effect cued or not, but I think we've got to decide. Has Norwester improved on Darryl's list? Inquiring minds want to know.
So, I mean, if we're going by my list, it dropped off the list.
Right.
Because it was at number 5, and then Niska
came into the list and pushed it out.
Yeah, and pushed Norwester off. So it's at number 6, so it's not even on the list.
Right.
So to get on the list, I mean, Hermitage, Rundle, Niska, Langholm, The Hills is my top 5. Actually, it's 7, because Jubilee is 6 and Norwester is 7.
Oh, wow.
So not only is it got to be better than Jubilee, it's got to be better than The Hills to get onto the list.
Right.
And does it do that?
Does it?
No, of course not.
So much build-up.
So much build-up. No, I still don't like it. I mean, it's okay. It's at least. I mean, it's got some good things going for it because it's an 18. Although it's the same 9, but you could say that about the Hills. But the Hills, the difference between one tee pad to the other is minimal. At least with Norwester, your tee pads are from a different area. I think of let me just run through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So hole 6 and hole 15, I guess. The 2 tee pads are opposite end of the field there.
Yes, and then even 7 too. Yeah, you are correct with that one. And even 7 when you're teeing off the top of the hill, and then that crazy Mando on the back 9.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, it definitely. I'm not comparing it to the Hills in that regard, saying that the Hills has 8 or 18 and things like that. But yeah, I think it's just. I don't want to. I keep hearing myself, and I keep wanting to say the difficulty of the course because I don't want to say I don't like it because it's difficult. I don't want an easy road, which I know the Hills is easy because it's basically a putter and a mid at
pitch
best
and
on
putt.
A pitch and putt course, right? But I just think that it's the layout, the area that it's in. It's there's no danger of going wayward and hitting cars or. The fairways are not narrow enough. Like I'm always thinking of hole 2. I know most of the fairways are a bit wider, but hole 2 I just don't enjoy that because the gap is so narrow and you've got the trees on the left that you're always going to hyzer into. You don't want to throw a wide shot to go around the back of the trees because there's some trees there that can stop you from going out that way. or you end up in the trees, or you end up on the road. So, yeah, unfortunately,
To
Kevin.
all the Norwester fans out there, Kevin included, Darryl
Yeah,
is not moving it back on the list. We tried. At least we tried.
yeah, we
Now
tried.
the what?
I gave it a go, but I would just
Yes.
while we're talking about making lists and courses and things like that. I don't know if you noticed on our last video on YouTube, I was getting called out by a certain Miss Kristen Swirls that
Oh, were
basically
you?
Southsiders should stop whining because the North Side is where it's at.
Well, being a North Sider, I would tend to agree
Well,
with Kristen.
I know, but disc golf, Edmonton disc golf is all inclusive. We need
Yes.
Southside.
You'll die on that hill, right?
Exactly. Although giving a bit of an update, I mean, I haven't heard back yet, but I have sent an email. But I did some research from the last episode when talking to Tim about
Right.
Beaumont, and that he has
Oh.
nothing to do with it, and probably know more about it than he does, sort of thing. So I did some investigating, and it's on their website, and they've done an update. The current Beaumont disc golf location is no more. They're pulling it out.
Oh.
They were doing construction for the storm drains,
Right.
and the course is permanently closed until they can find another suitable location. So
That makes sense.
I've emailed asking where where we stand on that process, whether they have somewhere in mind or if they're just going to kind of let it go by the wayside unless people ask for it. Maybe they won't think there's a need for it. So anybody that wants to, is probably, if anyone lives on the south side, I mean, it's probably just as quick to travel to a Beaumont course if we get a nice 9 or an 18 somewhere down on the south side in Beaumont. But yeah, if you're interested in having another south side location, send an email to Beaumont. You can go on their website, beaumont.ab.ca, I believe it is.
Okay.
Send them an email and find out what's happening. But yeah, currently there's no plans or nothing in place that they've said. They're permanently closing the current course at the Four Seasons.
Well, good on you for reaching out to the city and working on that. I'm sure if you talk to Nick Legault out here in St. Albert, he'd give you some tips on working with the smaller cities and how to make that happen. Of course, Tim's got a ton of experience too, but I think it may take somebody like yourself or other disc golfers to jump in and show that there is a demand and put a little pressure to say, let's find another spot and get this course back up and running. Because if they've got what do you call it? If they've got the baskets and the infrastructure, like the parts for disc golf, then it's just finding that new location.
Yeah, and I think I think it was probably 2 or 3 years ago that Beaumont used to be a town, but they applied for city status and we're now classed as a city. So they are planning on expanding and things like that. And they did just create 2 baseball diamonds with an off-leash dog park. In a nice big area just on the outskirts of the city right now. So they're definitely expanding it, and they're looking at moving and creating more spaces for people. So I definitely think they're not opposed to it, but it just means that we just have to show that everybody wants it as well.
Right. Now, we were talking about Norwester. I do want to plug DJ Disc Golf again, as I always like to do on your behalf, because you're too humble to do it yourself. But we always talk about the Desert Island discs. So we had just enough time to play 9 more holes at Norwester after we played the 18. And what we did was Mark was with us, and the 3 of us, Mark, we made him stick to it. He wanted to. How many times did he try to make a change where he's like, can I have 2 pures, or can I have a putter and 3 discs? Or
which pure did I spin? Which mold? Which plastic? He was.
He was
all
definitely
up for trying to bend the rules there a bit, but we made him stick to. We allowed him to. We didn't say which putter or which pure he had to pick. We just had to pick one.
Yes. So we made him pick his 3 Desert Island discs that he had said on the podcast, and you and I had both mentioned our 3, and you had said yours might have changed, but we made you stick with yours as well. And then we recorded some. Did we record much content with that, or was it more just a matter that we went around and played with it?
Yeah, I think it was just an Instagram post that we showed our disc to start with, and we didn't necessarily post the scores, which Mark really wanted us to post. But it wasn't about the scores, Mark. It was about the taking part.
Yes, exactly. So after that, I guess we should do. Why don't we do this? We haven't done this in a little while, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, Darryl. But if we were to do Desert Island Discs today
Yeah,
for you and me, would you
yeah,
change anything, especially after playing
I
a
would.
round at Norwester? Okay, you would.
I would.
What would you
I
do?
would, and I would, and I've got you to thank.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, you and Jesse from Trash Panda, because one of the discs that I've been throwing recently, and I'm amazed at how good it is. Whether I, I didn't really give it a go when I first got it from you, but I've tried it again and again. I think I would replace. Well, I don't know though, because it's the Vandal. The Vandal that we swapped because you had
Right.
two Vandals and I had two Folks, so we did the Trash Panda Disc Golf exchange.
Yes.
So we ended up swapping there. So I got the Vandal, and since I've had it, it flies like I expect it to fly. It's got the turn and the fade exactly like the flight numbers. And I know we say sometimes that flight numbers don't matter and things like that. And the more you beat in discs, they don't really fly like they're supposed to anymore. But yeah, I've definitely been pulling that one out of my bag a lot more. Would it replace my Wave? Probably not, because I don't think it's got the distance. Would it replace my Echo? Probably not, because I don't know if I could throw it for those mid-range shots.
Okay.
So, having said that, I don't know if I would replace it. It's definitely a good backup. I don't
Could
know
you
if I
putt with
would.
your Echo?
Oh, but I mean, I could. I mean, we
You can
always
putt with anything, but
Yeah, exactly. Whenever you throw your upshot and it lands 15 feet from the basket and you miss with your putter, you always pick up the one that you approach with and you throw that in, and player two makes it with any disc, don't they?
yep.
I don't know. I do. Maybe it could replace the Wave for my driver. It doesn't.
All I want you to
necessarily
know
have
is
to...
whatever you say now is going to be held true to one of our next rounds.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Well, good job you said that. I didn't know. Now you got me thinking. Now, I don't know. Are you changing any of yours?
When I think about it,
Let's just have a recap. What did you pick? You picked your musket.
so I've got my EV, yeah, my musket is my long disc, my
Yeah.
Lizotl Hex is my mid, and then
Yeah.
my EV7 Phi is my putter. I'm not giving up
Yeah.
that putter no matter what, because I throw that
Really?
putter. It's my throwing putter. It's my putting putter. I just had it out at putting league this past week, and it was fantastic. And as for the Lizotl Hex, it's got Ace written on the back of it, so there's no way that I'm taking that out of there either. The only
Okay.
one that could change, and again, this is another Jesse Trash Panda, is I've really enjoyed throwing that Falk.
Right.
When I did get a birdie at that Crow's Nest Pass course, it was with the Falk, and I had a nice throw, and that understableness of it pulled it out a little to the right and then brought it
Yeah.
back, and it did a nice S curve. So if anything, I love my musket, but if you were going to make me change one disc for the next round, I would take
Yeah.
the musket out and give the Falk a try for that one round. And I hope we don't get explicit
So-
lyrics for my pronunciation. I hope I've said it clear enough.
Yeah. So you're taking out a 10-speed musket and putting in a 9-speed Falk.
Yes.
If that's what you were going to do. Whereas I'm thinking about a 12-speed Wave.
Yep.
Excuse me. I'm putting in a 9-speed Vandal.
Well, why don't we do that? And we'll give it a shot and let everyone know how it goes. Can I
don't
convince
know.
you? Do I got you sold?
Okay. Well, if you take out your musket, I'll take out the Wave, and we'll go with the Falk and the Vandal.
All right.
Oh,
Done.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, why don't we pick 3 new discs? But no, we'll stick with the putter in the mid.
For now.
Yeah.
But I don't know
Okay.
if we're going to get another round anytime soon. A lot of people have been talking.
No.
I'm going to say, let's call this out today. So this is before the
Okay.
next Winter League, which is going to be, some reports show wind chill is going to be minus 42. Some show
Yeah.
it's going to be minus 28. I'm saying today, I don't know if Jeremy is brave enough to get out there. And all of you other people who have been saying that, oh, I'll be there, I don't care how cold it is. Let's see if you get your 18 holes done. If you do, I'm going to shout you out next week and give you tons of kudos.
Okay, hang on a minute. Hang on. Let's just clarify here because I'm a stickler for wording. So you
Okay.
said, I'm just going to call it out right now.
Yeah.
And then you said, I'm not sure if Jeremy's going to be there or not. So then you're saying, I don't know. So
Okay.
if you're calling it out, either you're not or you are.
Well, I can't do that yet, Darryl. Okay, I'm
There
gonna
you go, then.
say.
You can't. Because
I'm
if
gonna
you say,
say.
okay, I'm calling it out right now, I may or may not be there, then that doesn't solve anything.
Yes,
You're not
that's
calling
an
out
in-between.
anything. Yeah.
All right. I will not be at Winter League this week.
Okay. I mean, it's a fair
Shocker.
assumption. I think that's the way that it's going to go. I mean, we're not going to hold it against you if it suddenly warms up and you go.
I think
yeah,
that's the best option to say is to say I'm not going to go than to say I'm going to go and don't show up.
Exactly. Yeah. Because then you're going back on your promises. But yeah, no, I don't think. I mean, the way, like you said, the way things are looking. I know our buddy Mark texted us today saying that he was outside for about 40 minutes in his best winter gear, and he came in and he was frozen like a board. So I don't think, if people, like you said, if people go out there and stick it out, all the power to them, and well done for you. Keep your weak scoring, streak alive.
Yep.
But that's the other thing you got to think. When was the last time you played? Probably last Saturday.
It was.
So if you don't go out this Saturday,
I'm putting my streak on the line. Oh,
You
now
are.
you're really
See, now
making me think.
yeah.
Can
How
I-
much
can I-
value do you put in that streak? Because I did originally until I had COVID and I couldn't go for a week, and then it's like I'm starting from scratch, and you're probably 30 or 40 weeks ahead of me. It suddenly didn't seem so important then.
That's right. Well, I don't know if I go out there, I'm going to be wearing Baffin boots, a balaclava,
Yeah.
snow goggles, snowmobile mitts with the nose rags on the back of them. Like that's how I don't know
Yeah.
what that round is going to be. It might be my highest scoring
And-
round ever.
And that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really looked into the league rules and things like that because obviously I'm not taking part. But if you don't go a week, does that affect your overall score as opposed to going this week and having a bad score?
No, I think it's taking a certain amount of your rounds. So it would always take the
Right.
best rounds that you played. So I don't think it would have any effect upon other than that you
league.
just have one less round to add to that.
Accumulate. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's not really a downside to missing the week. It's not like you're throwing the whole league standings into jeopardy or anything like that.
Nope.
No.
And I guarantee you, if I shot bogey golf dressed up like that, I'd be happy. That would be,
Oh,
if
yeah.
I was plus 18, then I would figure that was like being par, the exact same thing.
Yeah, no. I understand.
hmm Well, Darryl, you know what we were talking about? We wanted, we don't know how many people get to this part of the podcast,
Yes.
but this is where we like to shout out our socials and such. We want to try and maybe put that a little earlier and catch some people, get some subscribers, but something's working because we started 2024.
Yeah.
So December 31st, 2023, we had how many YouTube subscribers?
I think we reached 20.
20. Yeah, we had just
on
reached
Tim's
20.
episode, we shouted out that we had the big 2-0.
That's right. And now have Kristen's episode's been released. Tim's episode
Yeah.
just dropped here. And as of
Yeah.
today,
And also, we also had some good reposts and shout outs from Joe Henderson as well. She put it out on her, retweeted the Kristen episode and I say retweeted, reposted, sorry.
Reposted, yeah.
Reposted on Instagram the Kristen episode and commented on some videos and things like that. So obviously she's got a big following, like you mentioned earlier. 14,000 followers on Instagram.
Over 14, yeah.
Yeah. Just to make sure that it hasn't changed, I'm going to do
Okay.
a live update.
A live check, riveting
But
podcast
I know what
material.
we had. It's still the same. So as of today, we had 20 followers. We now have double that. We're up to 40. 40 whole
Woohoo!
subscribers. And actually a good thing to mention on that was the fact that we had 38 and we were hoping that we were going to get to the 40, and then for whatever reason, things happen. We went down to 36.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's going to happen. You're going to lose, subscribers. You're going to gain subscribers. But we went from 38 down to 36. And then within like a day or two, we've now hit the big 4-0.
Yes.
So
we're almost at our ages.
Right? Almost. Yeah, hopefully we get to them pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, these numbers seem low in comparison to, you know, what you see around the rest of the YouTube and disc golf world and other followers on different platforms and things like that. But for the short time that we've been doing it, really, I mean, we're on episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
We're putting out one a week, so that's only 2 months that we've been doing it. And the fact that the numbers just keep growing, it's, you know, every analytic we run on the video and things like that always show that there's green numbers. You've reached more people this week. The watch time is up. The subscribers is up. Everything seems to be going in the right direction. So I can only imagine that once this episode releases and we get more and more guests on the podcast and things like that, and we're just going to go from strength to strength, Jeremy.
Yes. So thank you to all 40 of our subscribers. We appreciate every one of you. And
Yes.
we're looking forward to the next 40 and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And with that, what a segue, Darryl. Or keep
Well,
going.
I would just like to say that just because it's only 40 subscribers, don't let that put you off page. The quality and the content is here. Doesn't matter if
Yes.
it's 40 or 4,000.
That's right. It will be 4,000. We're putting it out there.
Yeah.
At some point it will. You always
Yeah.
shake your head at me, but
Paige, if you're listening, it's chainoutpodcast@gmail.com. There you go. If you want to check out our other content on YouTube, search YouTube for Chain Out Podcast. You'll find it there. If you want to check us out on Instagram, chainout_podcast. I'm sure you'll have seen it because Joe has reposted some of our videos. Facebook, find us on Facebook if you like to use that platform, Chain Out Podcast. And TikTok, we have a few videos on there as well. So we're getting to be social media content providers ourselves, Jeremy.
we are. And if people want to email us, they can email us at chainoutpodcast@gmail.com and we'll respond to you as quickly as we can.
I thought I just said that.
Oh, maybe I just tuned out like everybody else does when you talk about socials.
So it's okay, Paige. You're only getting me. Don't worry about him.
Yeah. You can have the brains, but you don't have the looks.
There you go. You can't have everything. Yeah. Well, what a fun episode it was.
Yes. Thanks again, everybody. And I think we can get everyone to join us this time. So what do we got for this week? If you happen to go out and play in the cold and you throw your discs in there, there's a good chance your discs will shatter. But hopefully if they shatter, they don't chain out. Thanks, everyone. Catch you next time.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. Okay, guys, bye. I'm going to edit that part.
Blooper reel.
There you go.